Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard on malcolmpresents.com. Tell us what the show is about, Max.
I will. So hi, Courtney, and hi, Malcolm, and welcome to Courtney on Health, a Zoomcast, podcast, and any kind of cast you want, series about how to get through these lingering COVID-19 times.
Actually, we should call it an outcast show.
Oh, could be. I think I'd rather call it an incast. But anyway, so the show has tips on nutrition and exercise given by Courtney Gravenese, who is a registered dietitian, and she also has a master's degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Courtney is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in our New York metro area. That's where we are, and beyond to Malcolm out in the West Coast and beyond that. And she will help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So let's go. Let's start. Let's do this.
Do it.
Famed singers. I know I'm going above the millennials and the Z's and all those folks, but maybe some of them know. Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong, they sang a song called "Let's Call the Whole Thing Off." It was written by Ira Gershwin, one of the most famous writers. So here is a lyric that really is the one that most people remember, and it gives you an insight on today's show. So here it goes, like, you like potato and I like potato. You like tomato and I like tomato. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Let's call the whole thing off. Well, I'm not going to call the whole thing off, as potatoes are part of my diet, but I would try to eat baked more than fried. And I'll give a clue that today's show is really focusing on potato protein mostly, but I'm still giving potatoes a little run in this right now because potatoes have been given a bad rap. Even Hasbro, the toy makers of Mr. Potato Head, have pivoted on the brand. Hasbro renamed Mr. Potato Head to just Potato Head to better reflect the full line. But I'm told there's still a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, so all is not lost. While Mr. Potato Head gets a reboot, it seems potatoes, as I mentioned before, continue to get a bad rap, and especially the fried version. We'll find out again where the protein fits into all of this. But a doctor, Tamar Haspel, explained, not a doctor, a writer, excuse me. Tamar Haspel explained in her Washington Post article back in January of 2017 that if you compare potatoes with whole grains, you find surprising similarities and even a case that potatoes are more nutritious. Compare 100 calories of baked potatoes to 100 calories of oatmeal, and you find a bit less protein, a bit more starch, and similar mineral profile. Potatoes have more potassium, but oats have more selenium. Oh, I love the way that rhymes. Instead of potato, we'll go potassium, selenium. All right. But potatoes beat out oats in almost every vitamin. I want Courtney to confirm if that's true, as well as fiber. So my question is, Courtney, do you say potato or potato first off? And second, what is the buzz on the protein of the spud?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's get it out of the way. Absolutely potato. So, no potato here.
But wait, well, if you're in one of those, those luxurious places where all the hoi polloi meet, you have to say potato.
Well, that's if you keep your thumb up while your pinky up while you're having tea.
My mother and her two brothers always drank tea with the pinky up. Always.
Right. Well, I don't know if you can eat a potato like this with your finger up.
Sure,
but anyway,
why not?
So certainly there are going to be people who, let's just get this, tackled at first. There are going to be people who just don't want to include potatoes into their diet. And I will say this is mostly Americans because they consider them starchy, they're higher in carbohydrate. And that's totally fine. People are individual and they're allowed to eat the way they want. But you hit it on the head, Maxine. There's a lot of nutrition in the potato. Typically where we go wrong is what we're doing to it. But that aside, and if I touched on this a little bit when we spoke about different types of milk So both animal, so cow's milk, goat's milk, and we talked about plant-based milk. So some of you might remember that I touched on sort of the new and upcoming potato milk, okay? And where this is really leading to is we've got some research that suggests that specifically the isolated potato protein, which is different from just the protein in the potato, but specifically that isolated potato protein is really could be potentially another source of plant protein for not only Americans, but more particularly worldwide. And I want to focus on that today because I want us to look a little bit past the United States and keep in mind that we've got 8 billion people and growing worldwide who need to be fed. And we're going to need to get a little bit more creative as societies in order to do that, because that's a boatload of people and it's very soon to be 10 billion people to be fed. So the more options and variety we have, so not just the type of food, but just from its nutrition perspective, how well is it going to feed those 8 billion people worldwide? So spotlight here on that potato protein. So we've got the most recent study came out of, you guys familiar with the American College of Sports Medicine? Some people are.
Heard of it, sure. Sounds
so one
like
of their journals published an article that suggested the research looked at specifically this potato protein isolate. And what they saw is that in this study happened to be in athletes, that 30 grams of potato protein concentrate yielded the same muscle protein synthesis or growth that 30 grams of milk protein yielded. Now, why is that important? Because most people would not look at protein derived from potato as being something that had the same punch or the same power that something like milk protein had. So this is important in terms of not only it gives certainly those individuals who do not eat animal products an option for them in order to have a very high quality protein available to them. But again, just as I said a couple of minutes ago, worldwide, this has really, I think, far-reaching implications in terms of how can we get better quality protein to these individuals around the world. So we might not know this, but and I know it's one of these crazy big words and most people have not heard of it, but it's called kwashiorkor. And it's specifically protein malnutrition.
Okay, but how do you spell it?
Kwashiorkor?
I'm kidding.
no, you don't. No, we don't want to make you do that.
I'm like, let me go through it. So we don't really have kwashiorkor or protein deficiency in the United States. Our issue is really more we're overfed and undernourished. I know that seems, when I tell people that's like, how can those two things line up? Yeah. This explains our obesity rates and overweight rates, but the fact that we are still poorly nourished, so we're not getting the vitamins, minerals that we might need in those calories, as opposed to places like the sub-Saharan Africa, Southern Asia, where we do see these significant rates of this protein malnutrition, and it's usually more common in kids who are 3 and under. But still, we've got about 1 billion people in the world who might not necessarily have that kwashiorkor, but are protein deficient. So we got to find ways to get different types of protein into their diets and make them more available. So, think about all the things we've discussed in our sessions, over the months, right? We talk about food needs to be affordable. It needs to be more accessible. How is it grown? Is it environmentally sound? Is it sustainable? So there's so many factors that go into how we grow our food. So it gets to be a little bit complex in terms of how can we do this? The one good thing about potatoes and potato protein specifically is that many areas of the world have the soil and the ability to grow potatoes. So it's not as if it can only be grown in one part of the world. And then we have to worry about, it's one small section and then we got to get it worldwide. It can be grown, everywhere. The trick is going to be, and again, this is developing research. So you're probably not going to go to a store yet, at least in the United States, and find widely available potato protein isolate let's say, energy drinks or protein bars. Not yet. I have a feeling that in the not too distant future, we're probably going to see these emerging on the market, but we're just not there yet. From a real world perspective, it's important that we understand it's not as simple as, okay, let me just eat potatoes instead of milk. It's not the same lineup. A cup of milk is a complete protein. There's obviously vitamin D in there and there's vitamin C in there, as opposed to a single potato that, although it has vitamins and minerals, only has 3 grams of protein in it. So one of the research articles I was looking at, and I was talking to a colleague of mine via LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, well, how many potatoes do you need in order to net 30 grams of potato protein isolate? So he did a little bit of digging and realized that you need about 3,000 grams of potatoes to net down to 30 grams. And what does that mean for you and me? That means about 17 to 18 potatoes. So you can see it's not an even exchange of let me eat that much potato to get that protein, but it does give us a lot to think about in terms of a viable protein option that we know at this point has a really, really high score in terms of its protein power, like how well can our bodies use that? We certainly know that, like I said, potatoes are grown in many places, and to date, and again, it needs to be teased out and there needs to be more research in it, but to date, it seems to be like a nice high green score in terms of wastewater conversion. So what that means is it looks like it could be a sustainable option for a plant-based, low allergenic protein source for many individuals.
Courtney, it seems, because I was looking up stuff too, a little bit anyway, and it said that there's a potato milk in Europe, a Swedish brand called Veg of Lund, and basically it's a allergen-friendly vegan ingredients potatoes in a milk base, plant base.
Right.
So it's out in Europe. What is the possibility of it coming here at this point?
Yeah, it's funny, I haven't seen at the Netherlands, and actually we look to the Netherlands at this point. That's where we're getting some of this data in terms of, okay, well, we've got some data about the water conversion, the wastewater conversion, but I haven't seen a lot of potato milk in the United States, certainly not in my part of the world. So if somebody has had it, I haven't even tasted it yet. So I can't speak to potato protein based product because I haven't had it. I mean, aside from, obviously whole potatoes like we've all had. So I'm sure it will come here, but what's important to the distinction that's important is that there's potato milk, and then again, there's that potato protein isolate, and those are different. The potato protein isolate is the one that appears to have very good quality protein in it, very available to the body to use. Potato milk is still going to need the same fortification that a lot of other plant-based milks already have. So keep in mind, oat milk, less to a lesser extent, soy milk, because soy milk is a complete protein on its own. So it's going to need fortification. So I'm not saying it won't be a good option. I'm just saying in and of itself, it's going to need additional vitamins and minerals added to it in order to have it be a good quality milk alternative.
Yeah, but are the potato isolate, the protein potato isolate, how do we ingest it? Is it a pill form or?
It was in
liquid?
a powder for this one study. It was in a powdered form. So I don't know. Again, this is all stuff that we'll need to see. Like, what's the best way for it to make its way into the food and beverage industry? And I will say at this point, again, this was something out of the Netherlands. This was a researcher in the Netherlands. Her take at this point was, it's prohibitive, the cost at this point to make that conversion into a usable form in the beverage and food industry right now. but that doesn't mean in the future it won't be. It just means it's too expensive for these companies to have that process done, use that many potatoes to yield that amount of protein and convert it into something that can be used in like either a bar or powder or something like that, or some kind of beverage. So it's fascinating. It's interesting. I think it's got incredible potential. Again, not only for, in the United States, but I'm thinking globally to have this kind of option to help with some of the protein deficiency that we see worldwide. I see great potential, and to me, it seems really promising, and it's something to look to. So it will be certainly something to follow.
Wow. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's, it would be something that from a health perspective is excellent. So it's just at this point, people need to know that there's protein, and how we get it though. You can't bite into, potato isolate. Just
no,
I don't
no, certainly not yet. But
Okay.
I think I'm hopeful, back to your point, Maxine, that it shines a light on a food that, at least in the United States, like you said, is somewhat demonized. And I think people need to realize that there's a whole lot going on in there. And this, I'm even talking about the regular old spud. I'm not even talking about, the sweet potato, which seems to have a little bit more of a halo about it because it does have more beta carotene and things like that in it. I'm talking the average spud. There's so much going on in there, and it tends to be inexpensive. You can buy it in bulk. I'm always trying to encourage, my client base. I'm like, it's an option for you. It's shelf stable. There's so much good about it. And most people don't know that spoken about this before. In fact, I know we have something being a complete protein. And there are very few plant versions that are complete protein. Soy happens to be one of them. Quinoa is a complete protein. The potato is a complete protein as well. The problem is a couple of the amino acids that are in there, which are just the broken down proteins, the building blocks of protein, are very, very low amounts. So technically it's a complete protein, but 2 of the amino acids are really, really low. So you couldn't just live that couldn't be your only protein source. You'd need to have some other plant protein in there to make it truly complete, to make up for those deficiencies.
What else does the potato contain, the vitamins or the minerals that's good for us?
Yeah, vitamin C, potassium, fiber. So both the soluble and insoluble fiber, particularly if you have the skin. And I'm always telling folks, and again, this is sort of the isolate aside, but, obviously clean the skin, but, people usually peel the potato to make mashed potatoes, right? So I just clean the skins well. I make dirty mashed potatoes all the time. It shortens the work. You've kept the whole, you're just mashing it, but the skin is there. So you're preserving a lot of that soluble fiber that tends to sit underneath the skin.
And it's generally, they're so simple to make. I love baked potatoes.
So simple.
You cook the whole potato. You don't have to peel it. Bake it, put it in, cut it in half.
Wonderful.
And then put yogurt or sour cream on it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. They're easy.
Go with the Greek yogurt. I just was checking because I can do that on my phone now. I put in potato isolate as a Google search, and it came up with some Amazon Prime. There's potato isolate protein you could buy. Is that a thing? Or something you would recommend as a dietitian? I don't even know what's in it, really. I didn't look at the details, but it's called isolate. I don't know if I'm assuming it's just called isolate protein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would have to see the ingredients to make sure that it's truly just potato protein isolate. I suppose they could mix it with soy or even, of course, it would be mixing animal with plant-based, but you could do you can do a mix of, let's say, whey protein, which is the milk, one of the milk proteins. So I don't know if you're looking at.
It doesn't even say. It doesn't say potato. It just says isolate. So I don't.
So and then that could be a variety of things.
That could be a whole bunch of different things. So it might not be potato, but on a search, that's what it comes up with. So yeah, it needs to to get some legs.
Get some traction. I mean, I would try. I mean, I may look, I mean, unless it's I mean, again, I'm gonna trust this, the researcher from the Netherlands, and that it's probably very expensive at this point. Cause again, that's a lot of, remember, that's 17 potatoes
That's a
just for
lot.
30 grams.
That's a
And
That's a
lot.
lot of spud.
Now,
A lot of
I
lot
want
of
to know,
spuds.
why are we ruining the potato by taking it, cutting into little slices and pouring it into oil? And
Because
frying it?
McDonald's just loves for you to buy their
And
fries.
it really, and it tastes good, but what does it do for the body?
Well, you could do oven fries, which
I
I think a
like-
lot of people get, right? And they're totally
Air
fine with that.
fryer. Air
What's that?
fryer. The
Oh,
air
people
fryer.
love their air fryers. Absolutely.
I love it. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I do, but I gotta tell
Yeah.
you, it's healthy and you could make spuds in there and not
Yeah.
feel like, they're drenched in oil. And they taste, it's really good. They make it crispy. It's wow.
I don't have one, but anybody I know who has one loves their air fryer. And you're
Yeah.
right. That's a great.
Air fried
That's
potatoes?
nice.
Okay, I'll have to
If
talk
you
to
have an
Anna
air
about that.
fryer, you could do almost anything in this air fryer. It's like, it's crazy. I didn't realize there were certain things I could do, but I'm not putting any potato isolate protein in there anytime soon because I have real potatoes I can stick in. So I don't know. It keeps the
Yeah.
skin on, so that's good, right? You want to make
Oh,
sure.
yeah, definitely. And if you remove the skin, it's not like you're removing all of the nutrition, but certainly it's certainly easier, and it's, like I said, they're easy to have around. Most people, I think, as they move into warmer months, do slightly different forms. So they might move away from roasted potatoes and then moving more to like salads, but you can do them on the grill. I use my grill pan and I throw them in there with lemon slices and garlic cloves and seasoning, and keep the heat out of your house. And you can make this wonderful warm, potato salad that, tastes delicious. The skins are on. It's a nice accompaniment to, grill type foods as we're cruising into summertime. Again, this is a little bit different than the protein isolate from potatoes that we're talking about, but don't rethink the potato in terms of its ability to offer economical and be a really great option as being a nutrient dense food. Don't sit down to 50 of them, but rethink the spud.
But I think a lot of people think potatoes are fattening. I think they're thinking of fried, like French fried potatoes. But are
Wow.
potatoes, how many calories do they have? Let's say you ate a whole baked potato.
Depending on the size of the potato, it could be anywhere from like 150 up to, if you got a Gigunda like this one, and this is a sweet one,
yeah.
but it could be close to, 250 calories, 300 calories, depending on the weight of it. But most people would not eat a baked potato quite that big, I wouldn't think. So a lot of times it's what's put on there. I think if somebody's eating an overwhelmingly heavy carbohydrate diet, that they're hesitant to add even more carbohydrate, because let's face it, it is mostly carbohydrate, the potato. We did mention the 2 to 3 grams of protein that's in there, but it's mostly carbohydrate and very, very little fat, if any at all. So some people are really trying to watch their carbohydrate, and I can understand that and respect that. But it can fit if you're missing potatoes. And there's a way to bring it back in. You simply have to replace some other source of carbohydrate and bring in a potato. So you're swapping out and not adding.
Yeah, but isn't potatoes more very digestible in the system?
For most people, yes, definitely. So I think it's, like I said, I feel like most people, the resistance is the calorie load that they think is attached to, carbohydrate. And I think people need to rethink it a little bit, but it's very digestible. The studies, there's actually a very standardized way of determining the amount of the digestibility of the amino acids in foods. There are actually somebody figures all this out for us, right? And sort of ranks everything. And the protein quality that they found in particular, this protein isolate in potatoes is very, very high. So I think that's relatively new information and helpful for people to know that they may not be getting a lot of protein in that individual potato, but what's in there is very easily used by the body, which is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you have it.
We're going to have to stay tuned. I'm fascinated by this. Like I said, I think it's interesting. It's one more option, perhaps. If the data is truly there, that 30 grams of potato protein isolate yields the same muscle mass synthesis that, let's say, 30 grams of, let's say milk protein again. If that's true, if that's replicated in the studies, that really offers a lot of potential for not just athletes, but individuals as well. And then looking beyond that, I'm looking at this as tremendous potential for worldwide, globally, getting more protein options for people worldwide to reduce some of this deficiency that we see.
Yeah, well, worldwide, there's a crisis now on food. We're sort of in the United States, we don't really hear that much about it.
Yeah.
But and nothing is done on the the news or our news. But I listen to the evening to BBC, and in most parts of Africa, there's a famine there. I think there is 160,000 children who are dying from lack of water, not only food.
Yeah.
It's it's a crisis area, and the water situation is not getting any better.
Yeah.
I know in California and the western states, the dams, the reservoir are like 40% full.
Wow.
Yeah. I think Lake Powell and Lake Mead are the lowest in history.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what we're going to do.
I know. So we're in a global world, right? So we need to think, not just your state, but our country, and beyond our country, we need to think about the world. And that's where I feel like things like this, and again, there's a lot of research yet to be done, but it has the greatest potential to help with some of the, the hunger issues, in particular, the protein deficiency seen worldwide.
Yeah, because I think what we're going to see is a migration of all these people that are suffering coming into other countries, which is starting now, actually, with the famine, almost like if you think back to the, our depression.
Famine.
You think of a depression with the, the Okies who came from Oklahoma and Texas because they couldn't they had the Dust Bowls. They came to California. It's going to be like this to, the African nations who can't subsist are going to migrate. The people are going to migrate into, Europe or countries that do have better nutrition.
Well, they had the potato famine, in Ireland, and a lot of people migrated here during that time to the United States.
Yeah, that was sort of like the late 19th century.
Right. So, it's everything kind of repeats. We don't want bad things to repeat.
Right.
We're trying to be innovative and use, science and technology and whatever creativity we have to make things better, and to get information from people like Courtney, who can, keep us up on what's healthy and what's good. And that's important. We need to try to keep ourselves healthy, and if we stay healthy, then it kind of pays forward to other, people, and maybe we can just keep our actions and words that way.
Absolutely. Keep it moving.
Keep it grooving, baby.
Well, I'm not sure whether it's a healthy mind, a healthy body, or a healthy body and a healthy mind. You have to have a combination of both.
Definitely have to have both.
Right. So. Well, hey, I'll keep my spuds in my air fryer and be happy.
There you go.
Do you have anything on your website about the preparation of potatoes, or giving hints to what's the best way to prepare them nutritiously?
I don't have it on my website right now, Malcolm, but I can certainly try and add it there, or I can post about it. I can do sort of two separate ones. We can talk about the protein isolate in potatoes, and then I can do a rethink your spud and give some options, particularly for summer,
Yeah, that's good.
Because I know I love potatoes.
Because Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head will be happy.
Well, then we could talk about political correctness of saying a Miss Potato Head, a Mr. Potato Head, and whether they have What's the difference between a male potato and a female potato?
Here's a quote I read online. This guy was talking about, how he loves potatoes. He goes, I like them mashed, hashed, pierogied, or oven fried. I never met a potato I didn't like.
And I don't know about you guys, but I think Mrs. Stoll's potato knishes.
Yeah.
They're the best. I don't know if you've ever had them, Courtney.
I don't think Courtney
No,
has.
but I like pierogi. I like pierogies a great deal.
Yeah,
They're
pierogies-
yummy. I could sit with onions and oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Mm.
And they put like a warm sauerkraut also near the pierogies. Oh, there's a great place in the East Village. Oh man. So yeah.
But Max, the next time you're in Brighton Beach, I don't know if Mrs. Stoll's is still open.
No, it's gone.
Or I think Shotskins is in Coney Island.
I don't know who's there, but it's gone.
Although, I don't know if it's the same, but when I was living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, of course, right around the corner from me was Zabar's, and they had knishes in there. They were good. I don't know where they got them from, but they were good.
No, they still have good knishes, Zabar's. But if you want to go for the super excellent knish, you got to go to the Lower East Side and have a Yona Schimmel's knish.
Yona Schimmel, and
they're still there.
And also Akasha knish. Have you ever had Akasha knish?
Yes, millions of times.
With Akasha is also known as buckwheat groats.
Really?
And it is so healthy.
Could have fooled me.
Anyway, guys, our show is up, and I'm hungry.
Okay, now I want a cabbage knish at Stoll's. All right. So
okay, take us out.
I'll take us out. I will take us out. So remember the spud. It's good. The isolate protein is something up and coming. So thanks for joining us on Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, which is Courtney on Health, on Instagram at CLG Wellness, and visit her website, CourtneyGravities.com. For more shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. Courtney on Health. You know what we say, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness, and we'll catch you again next time.
Catch you next time.
Catch you next time,
guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.